this summer? Chill out with Klostaller, the original game changer in non-alcoholic beer. Whether you're into crisp and classic, bold IPA vibes, or that fresh grapefruit twist, Klostaller's got a flavor to match your mood. And hey, want to ride with the pioneer of non-alcoholic beer in a new way? We're giving away a custom Klostaller beach bike. Just text BIKE to 833-426-1559 for your chance to win. Klostaller, natural brewing, refreshing living. No purchase necessary. U.S. residents 21 plus only. Restrictions apply.
Brews and Banter.
Hey, Frank.
Hey, Roman. How are you?
Doing great. And welcome, Jeremy.
Hey, boys. How are you?
We're doing good. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Jeremy, where are you from?
It's a long story. I was born in Jacksonville, Florida. My dad was in the Navy, so we grew up all over the place. In fact, I think the only school I went to for consecutive years was 4th and 5th grade. And the rest of the time, well, actually, and then I went through 10th through 12th. But between kindergarten and 9th grade, there were only 2 grades that were at the same school. So I spent a lot of time in upstate New York. That's where I went to high school and college. And the rest of the time was exploring the U.S. as a Navy brat.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
Like a lot of military families travel so much based on, where their parents get assigned.
Yep.
And what was the last base that you guys were on?
My dad retired from Great Lakes in Waukegan, Illinois. He was an instructor there when he retired. And I thought upstate New York was cold. That is probably as cold or perhaps colder. It's very cold up there. Not a fun place.
Lakes
Is more snow or just the cold weather?
No, I don't remember the same snow that we get in upstate New York. Yep. It's just very driving wind and cold.
Oh, yeah.
It's because of those belts that come in through the lakes. You got that wide space, strong winds from Canada.
Sorry, did you hit record on that?
Yep.
I didn't hear it. So, yeah, sorry. Anyway, so
we've been recorded.
we've got Jeremy Bauer with Givr Packaging.
Yeah.
So let's discuss that. How'd you get into that?
It's another long story. I kind of fell into it backwards. I went to school for paper science at ESF in Syracuse. Graduated with a diploma that says Syracuse and ESF on it in paper science. Went to work for a company that sold industrial enzymes. That I traveled all over the world for that. And then I didn't want to travel as much. So I got recruited out of that to work for a company that made boxes, but I wasn't supposed to be working on boxes so much. I was there to develop a topical coating with the team they had to bring in some paper expertise and some coatings expertise and some manufacturing expertise. So that product is called Green Coat for anybody that has sort of heard me talk about
coating for what? Paper products?
Yeah. So for boxes, there are certain types of boxes that require some barrier properties. So like banana boxes is the famous example that I give. They cannot be shipped in normal, what we call dry boxes. So just paper boxes. They have to be coated with paraffin wax, the old school way. And now there's wax replacement box coatings, which can be recycled. Historically, those boxes have to be landfilled or burned, and you lose a lot of the fiber that could be used to recycle. So this company was pioneering that space, and they developed coatings that were recyclable and held up to water. And I was brought in to sort of add what I could to that already existing process. And after a couple of years, the product patents issued and the product became commercialized. And at the same time, one of the flagship box customers in another section of the business that did real high graphics printing for CPG companies, they needed a sales guy, but not a sales guy. This specifically was requested by the customer not to be a sales guy. They wanted somebody that could solve problems, some technical solutions guy. And so for some reason, the corporate HR president or vice president and the president of the company were like, why doesn't Jeremy do this? And so they approached me with this job offer to manage this account without telling me who it was. And so I'll never forget, Susan Newman, who's the HR person, came in and she's like, I'm going to tell you this and just think of it as building your career as a ball of yarn rolling downhill. And so I won't forget that, because she was right. And she's like, we have this role. You're not really selling. You're sort of managing the account. We want to grow the business, and they want somebody that can solve problems and not just sell them. And I'm like, okay, cool. Who is it? And they're like, well, we can't tell you until you accept the job. I was like, okay. So I accept. And they're like, well, it's Hershey's chocolate. So I was fortunate enough to manage a very cool customer, and I learned a lot about how to make, print, and sell boxes. And I did that for a while, got into sales, selling my own accounts, sales management, and I was sort of on the general manager track. And then that company got sold. And through that transition, it just kind of wasn't a fit for me anymore. They sold to a big multinational, and the vibe changed, as it's supposed to. That's the whole point. Right. So I left, and I was like, what am I going to do? And my wife was like, why don't you start brokering boxes, which is where you basically buy and resell them. And that's a pretty well-worn path in the box industry. You have independent sales reps. You have broker companies that have, they do the development side. And I was like, I don't know. I don't want to do that. You got to know a lot of people. You got to have a big cash reserve in case people don't pay you. I found 100 reasons why not to do it. So I was actually doing something else. I was doing some consulting work in the industry, but sort of adjacent to it. And then my buddy Dan, who was one of the first box companies or box customers that I opened, he was like, hey, dude, why don't you start brokering boxes? And I was like, that is a great idea. And I went home and I told my wife, I was like, hey, honey, you're never going to believe what Dan said. What a great idea Dan had. And she's like, yeah, Dan had that idea, huh? Dan's idea? So that's now a longstanding funny joke that she had the idea, but it was Dan's idea to get me to do it. So because Dan told me to, I started doing that. We started designing boxes and brokering them. And then, one thing led to another, and I hired staff and I bought equipment and we moved into a building, and, 8 years has gone by and we just keep growing. First 5 years was really organic, word of mouth, customer referral kind of thing. And then we started, the marketing channels, and we'd never really done advertising. I get maybe this is advertising. I don't know. But, and then we started hiring, salespeople. And this year, as we close May, we are up 52% this year over year. So
excellent. Wow. So you made it through COVID, all this other bullshit time that was. And
yeah. COVID was interesting. There were 2 or 3 weeks there where we weren't sure if we were going to have to shut the doors, followed by 2 or 3 weeks where we weren't even sure if we were going to be able to meet demand.
Yeah.
But we doubled in size over COVID, which was cool. That was transformational for us. It forced us to get good at a lot of things. It taught me a lot of things about how to staff a business.
Sure.
But yeah, I kind of fell into it backwards and just kept saying yes,
Yeah. I was curious when we heard about your company, I was curious to understand better the whole packaging business. I mean, we buy product as consumers all the time. Things are packaged. Some packages are frustrating. Some packages you don't know if you can recycle. Some packages.
I got a bitch about that.
Yeah, I do too.
the fucking styrofoam they give you from China that you fucking touch, but fucking just goes all over. And then it's sticky. It's staticky.
Yeah. I have a solution for that.
Good. We'll talk about that too. So.
What's the solution?
It's a company called Cruise Foam. They take food waste like crab chitin and shrimp chitin, and they process it through some sort of proprietary extrusion process, and they make foam planks out of it. We're actually selling that now. And it is a replacement for that styrofoam. It works as well or better. It is biodegradable, and from a thermal perspective, it works just as good.
And so the planks are these sort of cut to shape, cut to size for you or the consumer or whoever.
So you can get them as sheets, 48 by 96 is typically the biggest size that they do, but they actually extruded it into like 4-inch bars, 4-inch by 1 or 1.5 or 2, something like that bars. And they laminate them together to the width you need. And then, we have some in the shop that are for sampling that we can cut into size, or we will get them converted through a third-party foam manufacturer, die cutter, to go to the customer.
You know what my bitch is? When you buy a screwdriver, you need a screwdriver to unpack the screwdriver.
Yeah, or a knife to unpack the knife.
No, like it would have like that security lock with the Phillips head screw. And I'm like, well, I bought this Phillips head screwdriver because I don't have one right now.
Well, and they should never in the world, on top of onions, you should never have onions, but they should never have a flathead screwdriver. Whoever made fucking flathead screws, they can eat the onions and they can all just go on an island somewhere.
There is there is need for flathead, but the one area I don't understand why they make flathead screws, the size of it, and it is receptacle covers. Do you realize that flathead screwdriver fits perfectly into that positive plug?
So when it comes to outlets, size matters.
You know how many times like
That's not what I heard. Okay.
you know how many times a homeowner has slipped the screwdriver and stuffed it in the freaking positive, got zapped. I mean, it's a wake up call, but it won't kill you.
So that's our squirrel. We're a squirrel.
Yeah.
Now we get back on track here.
Yeah, sorry, but you hear the term biodegradable all the time. I'm familiar. I had a friend who opened a cafe. We ordered some biodegradable cups, which made out of cornstarch. And so when they say biodegradable, there's like a timeline till basically in the landfill, it will dissipate, right? Give your description of biodegradable in packaging. Like what is that? What does that mean? Like,
So the vocabulary is rife with greenwashing. The example you just gave, the cornstarch, polylactic acid is the polymer used for that. That's one of those that, yes, technically it's biodegradable, but it also causes significant problems when you're trying to recycle the plastic, the little bit of recycling that happens with plastic, because it doesn't melt the same. So it causes like legitimate issues. So that's one of those. It sounds good and there are uses for it, but it's actually pretty problematic, the PLA polymer. But to answer your question, what does biodegradable mean? I'm sure that there is an ASTM, which is a governing body of like testing procedures, and a TAPI, which is another governing body for a procedure for evaluating biodegradability. But the fact that there are multiple standards shows you that it's like, depends on who you ask. To me, it means if you put it in a field of grass, will it be there in a year in its form untouched? If you do that with paper, a piece of uncoated free sheet copy paper, it's going to be gone in like 21 days. If you do that with, for example, Cruise foam, there's a period of time they know that in this amount of time it's gone. If you do that with PLA, polylactic acid, the plastic made from starch, it's going to be there for a long time.
when you say a long time, in its form?
Yeah. So PLA, I don't have the number, but it's going to be there for, over a year, I would imagine. Maybe 2
when
years.
they ordered these cups and it came in like a truckload, they said 90 days it will be gone.
You have to be careful with that, because I think that means in industrial composting, which is where there are mechanical means to process and shred those things, and there's heat applied in many cases. But I'm not aware of everything that's on the market, so maybe that is one of the examples that's really actually biodegradable.
And then because you're saying like with cornstarch, you have to be careful with that. Is it because there's like plastic particles end up in the soil that then ends up in the food, or like what's the caution part of that?
Well, I was really saying because there are some plastics that get recycled preferentially over others. Mm-hmm. So like high density polyethylene, for example, can be recycled and recovered pretty well, like milk jugs. Mm-hmm. If you get some of that PLA in a primarily HDPE chain of recycling, it will screw up the recycling process for that polymer, because it doesn't get recycled in the same way. It doesn't react the same way to those other polymers, because plastic is a large family of other polymers, right? That's really what I was saying. So from a biodegrading standpoint, I don't know that PLA has a microplastics problem. There may be. We are sort of beside the plastics world, because a lot of the stuff that goes in our boxes is plastic, but we really don't operate and sell plastic, with the exception of actually no plastic. So I wouldn't call Cruise foam plastic. It's it's upcycled food waste.
Mm-hmm. I want to let our listeners know, please be patient with me. This is my opportunity to geek out about some of this stuff. Recycling, I'll tell you a little story later, but recycling, I feel like people recycle and they feel good about it, but I don't think they understand the reality of the recycling, where stuff ends up, and how much of it actually doesn't get recycled. And what they're throwing in there might not be recyclable, but they think it's recyclable because they're paper products. I'm doing quotation marks because it looks like paper, but it's infused with some of the plastic things that you just can't recycle. Am I right, Jeremy?
Yeah, let me give you a couple quiz questions here. Have you heard of Tetra Pak?
No.
Okay. The juice box material that let me think. There's some big brands that come in it. A lot of boxed wine comes in it. It's like the papery with the spout on it. A lot of protein shakes come in it.
Yeah.
If you squish it, it looks like a pillow. It is technically recyclable, but to my knowledge, there are only 2 places in the country that can properly recycle it. Everywhere else in the country, it goes to landfill.
Mm-hmm.
Question number 2. How much plastic gets recycled every year on a percentage basis? On a percentage,
I would guess 15%.
I'm gonna say like 6.
the answer is 6 to 7%. Job Frank.
Mm.
Yeah, most people think it is plastic. It can be recycled. It will be recycled. What they don't understand is that between it can be and it will be is a 93% drop off.
Right.
Most of that ends up in the landfill. The hard part is reclaiming it. And then, a portion of it ends up in the ocean.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the ocean, I mean, if some are not aware, I don't know who at this point not aware, but there's a giant plastic island floating in the Pacific Ocean, size of Connecticut, right? I think it's humongous.
It's big. I don't know. I don't know the footage of it.
But yeah, it's unfortunate how much of that. Also, some of the plastic breaks down and gets in the fish that we eat.
Yep.
And whether it's fish that eat all the bottom feeders or fish that eat those bottom feeders.
Well, it's all the stuff. It's like you say with PLA or the incompatibilities of recycling. So now you got this big island. Like you can't just scoop it up and go get it all recycled because all these things are going to you got to be separated. All these incompatibilities and what's going to screw up something downstream, and it's and that's just particular to that. Not even the things that are in our trash. The things you're throwing in the recycle bin. Once it gets to the the trash haulers location, they're not taking it and separating it by how it can be
are they
recycled.
taking the stuff out to a degree or?
Well, it depends. For example, my municipality or our county, Brevard County, has different bins. So there's tree waste, there's recyclables, and there's trash. The tree waste goes to the landfill to the right. The trash goes to the left, and the recycling goes to the left as well. It's all single stream. So everything is going to the landfill. It's not being sorted. However, when commodity prices for the plastic and the paper change and they can make money sorting and reselling it, then they will divert, as much of the paper as they can. And then the plastics can get picked. So it really depends on, is it worth their time or not? We see this a lot with OCC, which is old corrugated container. What you see in the back of Walmart, bailed up boxes, right?
Right.
There was a time when that was $200 a ton. So everyone was clamoring for it. So everyone was able to make money by bundling it and selling it. And then there was a period of time when China stopped taking it in like 2000, I don't know, maybe 16, 17, something like that, where the price was $30 a ton and people were picking it up and taking it to landfill. So if there's no financial incentive for this stuff to get segregated, it's not going to happen.
And so Givr Packaging, GIVR Packaging for everybody's listening, but you guys make 100% recyclable products, everything you sell.
Yep.
And then do you make anything you sell that's biodegradable?
Everything we sell is biodegradable.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That's
all
different.
of the materials we use, all of the materials we use, the paper that we use, if you set it in your backyard, it will not be there in a year.
Oh, okay.
He was saying earlier, anything he's saying.
Did I miss that
anything
part?
that's biodegradable, basically, if you were to put it outside in a year, it's gone. It's biodegradable, whether it's paper, cardboard, whatever.
So yeah. I mean, I guess biodegradable is considered recyclable, just being recycled into the environment.
Interesting distinction there. So recycled means it can be brought back into the loop to make the same material or other materials. Biodegradable means if its end of life is in the environment,
Okay.
it will break down.
See, I'm not as dumb as you look, Roman.
That's the smartest thing you've said.
That's it. I'm done now. I'm done for the rest of the day.
So, Jeremy, are your boxes have any kind of like a stamping or recycling distinction in like labels or numbers? I know some recycle labels like with the 3 triangular arrows, and there's like a number inside. Do you guys put those on, or is there like a way to distinguish, like to make sure you recycle and not just
Like, how would people know if they just had a box of yours?
Well, corrugated and folding carton, the materials we primarily use are at their very core biodegradable and recyclable. Our mission at Givr extends beyond just the use of the materials. Our mission is that we will offset the fiber usage for the trees we consume outside of the fiber supply chain. So we are trying to have net positive packaging, meaning if you order a truckload of boxes, and to make that truckload of boxes, it took down 500 trees. Our commitment is that we're going to put 500 in the ground to offset those trees outside of the paper supply chain so that they're not consumed again to make paper. And to answer your initial question, we don't stamp that anywhere. We have our cert stamp is required by law that says the box came from us in many cases, where it's required. But we don't market our mission unless our customers want to, because that mission is for us. Some customers don't even know we have that mission because they don't care, because they just want cheap quality boxes. Some customers do care, and they've gone so far as to make it a part of their branding. So we have customers that put this box plants this many trees on their boxes. So our goal is to do this mission at market price or below. The customer shouldn't pay more to accomplish this. And we don't need it to be conspicuous because we're not doing it for clout.
Yes.
I understand.
So, it's interesting. We got a number of things we can talk about, but I don't know. I mean, you watch how it's made, right? With micro or not micro, dirty, but the other stuff. So I don't know how cardboard is made. Like, so you guys are not making the cardboard, are you?
No, we buy sheets.
So when
old company did make the cardboard.
Yeah, so this is what we're getting at. We got an expert here that could tell us, like, what is the form? What is the form before it comes into cardboard? Like, is there some emulsification process that gets heated up and then that cools and it turns into a paper-ish product?
How much time do you have?
I got this and about 43 more in there. So
okay, good. So you're in the forest, right? There are arborists in there if it's old forest, or if there's trees that are made to be harvested. Let's assume that part doesn't matter. So you take the trees down, they go to a paper mill. If it's a virgin, it's most likely going to be a virgin mill. They will, in most cases, they will chemically pulp those and do a lot of stuff to break that tree down. You'll get fibers. You'll have thick stock, which is like oatmeal, 20%. Solids that'll be diluted down onto the paper machine to like 0.5% solids, and it'll get put onto a wire. It'll get progressively dried out, and at the other end of that paper machine, you have a reel of paper, a giant reel, 20 feet wide, 8 to 10 feet tall. The core in the middle is like 10 to 12 inches, and that machine's moving 60 miles an hour. That makes linerboard, which is the outside and inside of the box. Then you've got medium, which is sometimes virgin, most of the time recycled. Let's go recycled, just to explain the other side of the paper making. You've got a bunch of trash, right? The old boxes we were talking about, plus some other things like office waste. Those go into a pulper, which is a giant garbage bin filled with water and steam coming up through the middle. And it's got a big auger at the bottom of it called a pulper. It's spinning around and it's making a slurry. Let's call it 15 to 25% solids. That slurry goes through a similar process where it's thick stock, then it's diluted down. There's some chemicals added. There's some trash taken out. You blow air through it. You put soap in it, scrape off all the bullshit. And then it goes through a paper machine, similar kind of thing. Shot onto the paper machine, it gets progressively drier, drier, drier. Then you have a big reel of recycled paper. So now you have all of these rolls of paper, right? You have inside and outside liners, and then you have the medium, which is the wavy part on the inside. Those rolls go to what's called a corrugator. They are plugged into the machine, these big rolls, and the machine is running. The inside and outside liners are moving, and then the medium goes through these big rolls. They look like, from the side, they're like this. If you can imagine the paper passing through my fingers, it's making that wavy sort of look.
Corrugation.
The corrugation, exactly. One side is adhered through the corrugator with Elmer's glue, basically. And then the other side is touched with Elmer's glue, and they are combined. Now it's a long sheet of corrugated board. Through that machine, there are big razor blades that slit it to width. And then at the end, there's a cutoff knife, which is a big rolling knife like this that cuts it to length. And now you have sheets that are length and width that can feed a number of different operations. Let's say for a standard Amazon box, those sheets are going to have scores put in them on the corrugator. Those scored sheets are going to be put into what's called a flexifolder gluer. They go in, they're slotted to make those little slots still flat, and then the sheet goes through, and as it goes through, it's being bent on rails like this. There's glue applied to the glue tab. It comes down, it's put under pressure, and then it shoots out. You can do those at, I don't know, let's say between 3 and 10,000 kicks an hour. While you do all that, you can print on the box, and then they're bundled, stacked, palletized, and shipped to Amazon to ship to you.
So it's a singular machine through the entire process of creating cardboard, die cut, bend, box, print,
inked,
whatever,
glued,
right? Is it like a conveyor belt? Not like one part of it gets done, then gets shipped to another location. They do the other part, gets shipped to another location.
It's not a single machine. So we have kind of two plant styles. We have what's called a full line box plant, which takes rolls of paper, corrugates it, and then makes it, and then sends it over to different equipment that does specialty pieces of that puzzle. Slotting, die cutting, printing, gluing. That is a full line box plant where they bring rolls of paper out in, and they make finished boxes, die cuts, whatever out. Then you have a sheet plant, which takes just sheets. They buy the sheets from the sheet feeder, and you basically got that full line box plant that's decoupled. You got the place that makes rolls of paper into sheets, put on a truck. The truck takes them to the sheet plant, unloads them, and then that plant has all of the finishing equipment to then print, cut, glue to sell to the market. Nice. There are more sheet plants because they're less financially expensive, really. They're less financially burdensome to get into. A corrugator can cost $30 to $50 million. Okay. But a piece of converting equipment, may cost between $500,000 and $5 million. So there are more people with $5 million than there are people with $50 million. Did that answer your question? There's kind of a gray area.
Yeah, we talk about the process of things, and I'm familiar with sort of bigger industrial type operations like welded mesh steel, things like that. I know that this apparatus is huge, and it's involved, and it's if you got to change a line around, it takes days because you got these walls that open up because you got to move stuff. It's like that puzzle game with the one open square. You got to move up to that, and you move the thing. That's what it is. So
I hate that.
I wasn't sure how this process works. Is there a preferred type of tree for cardboard? Type of tree?
Yeah, southern pine, yellow pine. So softwood makes for very good container board. And then for other types of paper like newsprint, you've got those will be hardwoods. Newsprint's kind of going away, but mostly southern pine, yellow pine, loblolly pine, because of the fiber length, really.
Yeah.
So Jeremy, we know how cardboard's made. we talk about recycling. Tell us more about the box brokerage.
Yeah, so we both manufacture and have a network of partner plants that we're contracted with who make boxes local to a market. So, for example, we have a plant in Florida where we do a certain section of the business. But if we wanted to do a truckload of Amazon boxes in California, it doesn't make sense for us to make and ship those. So we have contract partners that we have, either a contract that's a hard contract or a gentleman's agreement that, if the price is $1, we're going to sell it for $1 and they're going to sell it to us for whatever less than $1 makes sense for them. So we're effectively sort of part of the bro network. And that's a pretty well established relationship in the box industry because you've got a lot of capital equipment that needs a lot of volume. And so there are guys like me out there who have the relationships and we have the volume. And so, we get preferential treatment in terms of pricing so that we can bring our product and our customers to market without having to sell them at a higher price than the market price.
Is gentleman agreement a handshake or is that still go on paper?
Sometimes both. I have friends in the industry. I've been doing this 23 years and there's no agreement in place. We just know they're not going to go after our customers. We're not going to go after their customers. And it's sort of mutually assured growth or mutually assured destruction, right?
That's unheard of now.
Yeah, but it's reciprocal. If they're coming this way, they'll use you. If you got to go that way, you'll use them.
That's right. Loyalty and trust.
Yeah, because freight and fuel.
Yep.
Freight fuel fucks things up.
Yeah.
It's so variable,
In a truckload in 2016 was like $2,500 coast to coast, and now it's like $6,000.
Right. Yep.
Wow, that's a big difference.
And so your main piece of your business is custom packaging.
Yeah, almost everything we do is either custom size, custom print, or both.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it just cardboard boxes, or is it like some of those fancy packages too? You get suede feeling or what I'm talking about? Like when you open the product, you're like, man, I feel like this box costs more than this fucking.
So we operate exclusively in corrugated and folding carton. We can do a lot in those arenas, but we are not talking about rigid setup, which is your Apple box, your high-end liquor boxes. That.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. That is actually a very different type of manufacturing, and it has some, unique requirements that we don't operate in.
And probably not even the requirements he's talking about are probably not US made. It's probably things. I'm sure there's some of them
nowadays. When you open it, it says packaging made in China and then product made Vietnam, whatever.
Yeah.
Some of that is made internationally. Some of it's still made domestically. The thing that allows that to be manufactured internationally, besides obviously subsidized labor or just cheap labor costs, is that the perceived value of that is pretty high. So if you get a really fine box, you may sell it for $10 or $15 or $20. They're going to make it for $2, and there's $6 in freight in it because it's not very cubically efficient. But you can still get it to the customer and make margin on it because it's a high-priced box. The manufacturers domestically that still do that have been doing it forever. They're not in huge amounts of debt, so they don't have a ton of debt service. Their machine is fully depreciated. Their machines are fully depreciated. And they have an existing customer base that appreciates the fact that they can go watch it being made. They have relationships with their customers that, allow them to continue to sell even though the market is pretty competitive.
Yeah. I like when local companies, product that's made locally, will invite people to watch how, give them a tour of the factory. I think Harley, you can go see how Harleys are made. Yeah. Although some of them are now not made here. And then you can go Zippo company, you're familiar?
The lighter?
Yeah, you can.
Bradford, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, you can go to Pennsylvania. There's case knives. You can go see how they're made. So it's fun, actually. Would love to kind of expand our podcast into some of the.
We could do that. We could travel to local manufacturers
to invite us, or we reach out to them and maybe come see how boxing company operates.
There's a lot actually in Syracuse. There's what was Solvay paper. I don't know if it's called Solvay anymore. I think it's now West Rock or Smurfit West Rock.
It's West Rock. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can go visit them. I'm sure if you just reach out to them and say, hey, can we see how a paper mill works? They'll let you go in there.
Well, and to be honest, I think we'd rather just go to North Carolina or Florida.
There you go. It's going to expense the trip on the podcast and be like, we had to.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right off.
But so yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff. So you do all the printing yourself in house?
No.
Is able to do that?
Nope. Most of it is part of our network.
Yep.
Now, when you get subcontracted, are you allowed to stamp your company's logo on boxes, or it has to be non-branded?
No, we put our search stamp on it primarily because we're not just getting the order and passing it through. We actually have in-house design, structural design, testing, graphic design. So we are doing all of the actual technical work. So when one of our sister plants gets an order from us, the work's already done. They literally have to do nothing but process it, put it on a truck. We even manage the freight. So we are taking the liability from a structure perspective. So we put our name on it.
You say you've been in the business for 8 years and growing. How many staff members, like locations?
We're just operating our sales and design office out of one location in Florida. And we have an offer out now with a designer. She may or may not accept. So that's 4 full-time and then just as many part-time.
Mm-hmm.
We have probably 4 full-time and then 4 1099s and then like a handful of part-time.
And that you think is sufficient right now to handle the volume of work coming in?
Yeah, we're pretty technology forward. So we run pretty lean, but we have a pretty big shovel. Mm-hmm. So we can, if a lead comes in and they want 10 truckloads across the country, we have a pretty well-worn path and a pretty high-tech, I hate that phrase, a pretty technology-driven way of handling that, such that for the customer, there's no homework. They send us a PO. They say, we want these here on these dates. No problem, boss.
Yep.
We get it. But we do that by having a tremendous amount of technology.
You own any of your own trucks, or do you subcontract all the transportation?
No trucks.
It's just subcontract all the transportation.
We have, freight contracts.
Yeah, and then even insurance. And we talked about, freight and fuel, but insurance on these things, ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's one of our competitive advantages is we negotiate fairly aggressively across the board that such that we are providing a high degree of value for both our customers and our vendors. And we deserve to be recognized by not paying crazy high prices for anything because we're doing a lot of the work and we're doing it very efficiently.
Yeah.
How do you guys get leads? Like, do you have a salesperson that reaches out to companies to generate leads, or do companies just kind of hear about you guys and reach out to you?
It's all of that. So like I said, the first 5 years were customer referrals and word of mouth. So we do a good job for one customer. They hear somebody else needs boxes. They're like, you got to talk to these guys. And then, we started working with sort of a rev share model. So a company will, let's say there's a company that does co-packing, right? They take things and put them into boxes. They'll say, hey, can you quote these boxes for our customer? And we'll say, sure. And in exchange for that, we pay a piece of commission to that. And now we have, sales reps too. So
there's got to be minimum orders, minimum run quantities. You can make one box or something.
Yeah, we have positioned ourselves through technology to be able to run one box if you want. Because when we started, we were trying to position ourselves, and we were successful in doing it, to be able to offer custom packaging, custom printing to startup companies who don't need 5,000, they need 50. Yep. So we can make a custom box all the way from getting your product, designing the structure, designing the art, placing the art, printing and shipping you one box if you want. I mean, it's going to cost you $85, but
right. Quick scenario: Kickstarter, 3D printer company, right? and they come up with a design. They reach out, say, Jeremy, this is our 3D printing design. We'll send you the 3D printer. Can you make custom boxes for transportation, for shipping? Is that the part that you guys do, design and do printing on the boxes of that, or you guys just get the sizes of the boxes it needs, the proper packaging, and then they handle the printing, the logos, and all that stuff?
We'll do all of it. When they come to us and say, we have this thing that we need one of these things, it's going to go direct to consumer, and it can't break, and we also want to sell it on Amazon, so we need to be compliant there. That's all they need. That's all they need to tell us. We do all of the development. We can do all of the graphic development. We'll place their assets, their art assets, if they need to. But we always say we don't want to give the customer any homework. So when they come to us, they get boxes. That's it. They don't have to do anything.
Okay. And you say, look, you go this design, it's this much. Do you give them like different levels?
Quantity discounts and stuff.
Like you say, hey, you want to go high end, really protect the shit out of this thing. We'll do all this fancy work on the inside of the box to protect it, shift proof, all that stuff. This much per box, this much if you buy, certain quantities. Is that how it works?
Yeah. So we segregate the structure from the price. So there is a right answer for shipping a thing through the mail or shipping a thing through the retail supply chain, which is on the back of a truck. There is a right answer, and it is whatever it takes to get it not to break and nothing more. You can put an egg inside of 55 boxes and it's not going to break, but then you overpaid. Right. You can also put an egg in an envelope and it's going to get shattered, but it didn't cost you anything. There is a correct answer for right sizing the packaging to get it where it needs to go so that the product survives at the price. There's no need to go super overbuilt. So we
handle figuring that out.
Yes, right. We have in-house structural designers that are, 50 feet from my office. We do that, and then we say, okay, now that we've got the structure figured out, we're going to send you samples. You play with it. You try to break it. If you find a way that you can break it or it doesn't pass the testing you like, we'll start over. That usually doesn't happen. Once we get over that, we'll say, okay, here are the die lines. Do you have graphic assets? Yes. Okay, send us those assets. We will place those assets. We call them mounting those assets onto the die line. Do you not have graphic assets? Okay, cool. We will do the graphic development for you. We have in-house graphics capability. Great. Or it's unprinted and they don't care. We put our search stamp on it, ship it out the door. At that point, we get over the art hump. We send them a PDF for their approval. They say, we love it, we hate it, whatever. If they like it, great. We go to printing a PDF or a physical proof. So through digital printing, we can print them one box that puts everything where it's supposed to be. The colors are close, if not exactly accurate. And they get to see it in their hands. Then we go to production. When we're quoting these, let's say they had one logo, right? And it's a die cut box. They may say, we want to see a quote for 5, 50, 5,000, 100,000. Through that spread, the printing method to achieve that can change. From 1 to like 1,000, we can do digital printing where there's no tooling, but the piece price is more. From 1,000 to really infinity, we may decide that flexo printing is the way to go. The piece price will be less, but there's some initial startup costs for print plates and cutting dies. So if you're buying, let's say the print plates and cutting dies are $1,000. If you're buying 500 boxes, that's $2 a box on top of that, just to break even on the first order. So if the box is digitally printed at $1.50, it makes sense that they go that route, unless they have plans to print 5,000 next time, in which case they may invest in the tooling because the break even is pretty clear to them. Yep. But we can reproduce the same image and the same quality across different print methods, and we present those to the customer so they have all of the data for the roadmap of that box.
And you guys keep like archives or storage of like all these setups. So like your company comes back for another order or whatever, there's no extra cost for retooling again. And
that's right.
And you guys don't handle packaging and shipping the product. It's more providing the boxes.
So we ship the boxes to the people that fill it and then ship it individually. We ship it on a pallet, or sometimes if it's a small order, we'll ship it in a box to the brand or to their pack out service. but only on very limited cases. And we get requests for this, and it's sort of something we're playing with. Do we pick, pack, and ship the finished product for the customer?
And do you guys handle all the regulatory printing on the boxes, or does the manufacturer does that?
The brands do that. We intentionally stay out of that. So barcodes, we don't advise on, and then regulatory like FDA, we don't advise on that either. Most brands have counsel for that, and I just learned early on that like there's too much liability, because if you're an expert, you really need to stay an expert. And honestly, most box companies don't get involved in that either. It's up to the brands and their legal counsel or their co-packer to decide that.
But if the brand provides says, hey, here's our logo that we need, or graphic to be printed, also with it, here's all the regulatory print that need to be on the box. Do you guys do that or stay out of it?
Yeah, we'll place it. We'll mount the artwork because at the end of the day, the customer is approving the placement, size, and content.
Okay.
So is there industries you won't touch? Like, are you familiar with IATA? I'm in the supply chain. This is why this is fascinating to me. So, International Air Transport Authority for Hazardous Materials. So there's qualified boxes. They have to meet stringent guidelines. These 4G boxes and stuff like that. Do you guys get into that?
Yeah, we can do hazmat. Yep.
Yeah. I know that's pretty specific stuff.
Yeah. There's also I can't remember the name. It's like biohazard box. Maybe it's still hazmat. We've done that in the past. It's just a specialty set of requirements. As long as we know that up front, it's not an issue.
Yeah, and these cooler boxes with the styrofoam in them and stuff like this. You can do
those, except it's not styrofoam, it'd be cruise foam at that point. But yeah, we do, altered atmosphere, cold chain stuff all the time.
And so how does inventory work for you guys as far as you don't keep anything in stock for the customer? You make and ship what they order. You guys don't keep anything for them to pull from when they need to?
We do in certain situations. For certain customers, we do. Most of the time, what we stock are sheets so that we have the capability to make whatever they need. But I can only think of like 3 or 4 examples of where we have inventory for a customer to pull from if they need it, because that is what the customer requested. But most of the time, they don't want to pay the piecemeal freight, so they just take it to their warehouse and it's over.
And in the sheets you have in stock, if someone says, "Okay, I want you to make some more boxes now," from that email to completion, is that a week? Is that a month? What does that turn around like?
Depends on how many. If they need a few, it could be a matter of hours.
I see.
If they need hundreds or thousands, it can be a week or 2. We track all of our lead times across all of our print methods. So I think right now, average lead time for digital is 3 weeks. Average for flexos, actually, it's probably 3 weeks. Offsets 4 to 5 weeks. And then samples is like 4 days.
Sure.
I have to ask this. What's the weirdest request you've had?
Like sex toys or like dolls or something?
Pretty close. My favorite box that we've made was for waterproof sheets.
Water?
Yeah. And it's a pretty unassuming box, actually. It's like a black box with shades of black. And it's like, I didn't even know it was sheets. It's like, just looks like a piece of material with water drops like splashing on it. There's that one was pretty fun. We did get some sex toy boxes we quoted and designed for. We also did a box for a company called Sugarwood. It's a company in New York City that makes waffles in the shapes of penises and vaginas. And we made a box for them to ship to customers that had penises shaped like balls, cock and balls shaped into the die cuts of the box. It was fantastic. A lot of big companies would not have ever done that. It was probably one of my favorite structural designs that we've done. The company Sugarwood, give them a shout out. And it was just like everywhere there was a hand hole or a die cut. It was not a circle. It was balls and shaft.
And you kept that on the display somewhere.
You still got the die, yeah.
Yeah, we can cut one out and send it to you if you want it. But why? I just send you a giant
with waffles.
You can put Frank and Rowan on each nut.
One of my sales guys just texted me cock and balls, cock and balls waffles. Yes, thanks, Max.
That's phenomenal. It's great to.
Jeremy, that's great. I feel like I've learned a lot, and every
Absolutely.
time we meet with new guests and interesting fields, like my gear starting to turn. I'm like, who do I know that needs boxes? How can I use the service? Like things like that. So I appreciate you educating us and
Absolutely.
and teaching us about this whole process. How constantly we handle packages that we just disregard. We don't think about how the whole process works.
We're talking about cock and balls. You're talking about handling packages.
I wasn't going to make the joke, Frank, but you did it for me.
It's a package, different sizes.
But yeah, absolutely, this is great stuff. I'm glad.
Timberland did that song "Dick in the Box." So
That's right.
And Justin Timberlake, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite Halloween costumes. It's so easy.
you got plenty supply of that.
Right. My favorite is just to make like a tiny little box.
Yeah. You name them.
Oh, you can do pixelated out of boxes.
Yeah. Right.
So and it's interesting. So I feel like I've gained some knowledge, and I feel like I have now a connection to a resource that in case either we need it or we can pass on to anybody else. Is there anything that you wanted to add to this that we haven't touched on or talked about, or that's important you like to highlight, maybe announce anything?
Yeah. So that whole design process I talked about, from you sending us a thing to us making structural design, samples, all the way to getting you samples in hand, all of that is free. Our motto and our ethos is, if we didn't earn your business through that process, we don't deserve it. The other thing is, you have a friend in the box business. If you're listening to this and you have a box question, you reach out to us and I will either answer it personally or someone on my staff will answer it. There's no reason to overpay for packaging. Just like in every business, buying something, you can pay $1, you can pay $5, you can pay 10 cents for the same thing, depending on who you're working with. So if you have questions, reach out. Advice is free. And
if someone wanted to reach out regarding, business, what's the best contact?
You can reach us on our website, givrpack.com. So givrpack.com. There's a request a quote. If you have questions, you can reach out to me personally. It's Box Builder on Instagram with no E, BoxBuildr. I always have trouble spelling that. Box Builder on Instagram, or at Givr Pack on Instagram too. We're on Facebook. You can check us out on YouTube at Givr PKG, I believe it is. If you just look for Givr Packaging, we have like almost 100 videos of me breaking down direct-to-consumer brands, talking about what I see, what could be done better. So that's a pretty good resource if anybody's looking to understand boxes. They can go there and check it out. It's free. Some of the production value is not great, but lately we've gotten pretty good at it. We got an editor and he's pretty good. So
I'll tell people, because I watched, I think it was probably your first video with some on the broomstick with the overhead camera.
Oh, that wasn't our first. That was like our 50th. That's how old these are.
But the sort of insinuated sarcasm and the dry sort of humor, it just fucking cracks me up. I
just try to keep it authentic. If it's funny to me, it's funny to at least one other person.
Yeah, and here I am. So
there you go. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you. It's great. Thank you for spending the time with us. Thanks to your team for reaching out and contacting us. And I know you're not home right now, so I appreciate you taking the time to be on here with us.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Stay put, Jeremy, for a minute. We just want to say thank you to all of our listeners, followers on all the social media. We appreciate everybody who came to our event that we hosted in Baldwinsville, Hops on the Seneca. It was a great turnaround. We hope to do that again and get more people in. And let's get the 4,000 followers on Instagram. We're almost there. We're going to be doing a giveaway.
Yep.
So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.